So, you know Epic Games, right? People who made Fortnite, headers of the Epic Store, creators of the Unreal Engine, kind of a big name, right? Well, with success, there tends to be a point at which the successful plateau, and then eventually they fall off the cliff of that plateau, and it all goes to hell. And this is where we start going onto the plateau for Epic Games. So let's talk. This one's coming from PCGamesN.com, which I randomly came across, and amazingly enough, I haven't found any videos on it yet. So at least at the time of this recording, so I might be the first on this one. But that doesn't really matter. What matters is that Fortnite devs are reportedly working 100-hour weeks. Epic Games employees working on the company's smash hit Fortnite have had to maintain brutal work schedules, with many pulling 70 to 100-hour work weeks to keep up with the game's success, according to a new report published today. Fortnite's rapid content release schedule has come at a cost of employees' physical and mental health, and some have even been fired from Epic for refusing to work the overtime hours that the company officially says are voluntary. That's not good, Epic. You probably should not be doing that. You should also probably not add another controversy to your list. So, the gist of the article, which will be linked in the description in case you feel like reading, I'm just going to try and give you bits and pieces here, hopefully, is that Epic has had the success of Fortnite Battle Royale gone to their head. On the bright side, we have constant updates, things get fixed almost immediately. It's like the game is constantly being worked on, updated, observed, kept fresh and tasty. It's being worked on, and of course that's because these employees are basically working around the clock. Now, just in case you haven't done the math or anything, let's just break down a little bit of numbers, just so you can, grasp the context of how much time is being spent by the employees to deal with their job, essentially. There are 7 days in the week, right? 7, and each day is 24 hours. So 7 times 24, that's 168 hours during the week. Which means 68 of those hours, if we're going to assume the maximum of 100-hour work weeks is a thing, we'll just go with that. That leaves with 68 hours. 68 hours divided by 24 leaves us with roughly 2 days. 2.83 repeating days. So almost 3 days of time that these workers get to relax, recharge, do things outside of work in their life, be with family, and honestly, that's not enough time. Because just try to think of this on, like, say you're a family member, you're a family man, you got a wife, you got, say, 2 kids, you got a dog and a cat. Your house is pretty much, you got a family, and you work these 100-hour work weeks. That means you have almost 3 days of time outside of work to, be with your kids, raise them right, enjoy some home-cooked meals, spend time with your loving wife, watch your favorite shows on TV, do something like a hobby or deal with the bills, or extraneous shit that doesn't exist from your work. And there's a lot of stuff that exists outside of one's work life. And 3 days' time, may be enough if you do it non-stop, but if you have a family, you gotta balance your time between a lot of shit, and there's little time for you, the person the person who's using this free time. Because then if you don't spend time with your kids and focus on yourself, your kids are going to resent you, they'll be problematic, that shit happens. That's why when you see a lot of problem kids, they hate their dads because their dads were not there for them, or divorced, or whatever. Or, if you decide not to pay attention to your spouse, then your spouse may think that you're cheating on you, or that you don't love them anymore because you don't do anything with them. It's there's so much shit that can happen because you don't have enough time to deal with life outside of your job. And this 70 to 100 hour crunch thing, constant work week, that is ridiculous. That is really absurd for a job to be like that constantly. But I've gone off on a tangent, so let's return to the article and get some bits and pieces here to see even how worse this is. Fortnite's Battle Royale mode turned into a cultural force and an economic powerhouse, earning Epic Games millions of dollars per day. Millions of dollars per day. That's a lot of microtransactions for a free-to-play game. Like, seriously, that's ridiculous. Epic's employees have said maintaining the game has meant brutal work schedules. Quote, "I work an average of 70 hours per week," one employee told Polygon, speaking on the condition of anonymity, because, if they're gonna fire you for taking time off because you're having mental breakdowns and you're fucking vomiting up your lungs because you're so stressed out, if you fucking expose their brutal slave labor environment, I'm pretty sure they'll fire you just as hard. Most of the report's sources could only discuss working conditions at the company if their names were protected, since most are under strict non-disclosure agreements. That's the key. Quote, "There's probably at least 50 or even 100 other people at Epic working these hours. I know people who pull 100-hour weeks." So, Epic here has their employees under non-disclosure agreements, which that's usually the standard when it comes to certain things, certain businesses, certain professions, and whatever that deal with things where information, is sensitive and should not be released to the public because that would ruin the product or somehow hurt the business some way, in a legitimate way, not a let's not tell them about how we beat our employees every day for not doing the job correctly. Nah, usually that's not how non-disclosure agreements work, but for the evil and corrupt, they would go as far to do that. Not openly, but, underhandedly. And that's what looks like to be the case as far as I'm reading this for Epic Games. So, Epic has their employees under a non-disclosure agreement, and employees can't talk about this publicly. They have to do it anonymously to, to journalists and whoever else who's willing to listen to them. And you can bet right now that, the higher-ups at Epic, if they ever catch wind of this, or when this story does catch wind to them, that there's going to be a pretty stressfully strict Big Brotherish witch hunt, if you will, over at Epic Games, just to find out who the fuck ratted them out on this. I guarantee you that's, once this story gets viral, that's what's gonna happen at Epic. Higher-ups are gonna be fucking bearing down on everybody just to make sure no one's stepping out of lockstep. It's like, oh, I see you on Twitter. You're not telling anyone that you're working overtime, are you, Sally? Yeah, I'm being dramatic here. But I'm pretty sure, I bet you that's what's going to happen. We'll see. We'll see if my prediction is right. My bet is yes. The employee said Epic theoretically gives its employees unlimited time off, but in practice, it's difficult or even impossible to ever take advantage of the vacation time. Quote, one employee, if I take time off, the workload falls on other people, and no one wants to be that guy, one employee said. The high demands of Epic's employees are partially down to Fortnite's rapid content release schedule, but employees said it also has to do with management's approach to development, which is make all the money, make everything, do it now, I don't give a fuck about you. Which is clearly explained here. Everything has to be done immediately, one employee said. We're not allowed to spend time on anything. If something breaks, a weapon, say, then we can't just turn it off and fix it with the next patch. It has to be fixed immediately. And all the while, we're still working on next week's patch. It's brutal. Employees said that if deadlines get missed because someone took leave or even a week or even weekends off, that person would be fired. Employees told Polygon that they and their co-workers have watched as their health and family lives have suffered due to the demanding schedule. So, let's retread back to when I was breaking down the numbers of how there's like less than 3 days worth of time for people who work at Epic to deal with their family or themselves, depending. Now, this clearly said that employees get fired if a deadline gets missed because they took time off or even weekends off. So that implies that the people at Epic don't even get weekends off. They work 7 days a week. 7 days a fucking week. So, you have to wonder now, how much time does that leave them per day to deal with life? That's 68 hours of free time across 7 days. Because the other 170 to 100 hours is for work, specifically for work. I don't know how their schedules work, like if they really do have everybody, there 7 days a week. I don't have that info, but I can only assume, and for the purposes of trying to hammer down just how absurd this shit is, we'll go under the assumption that it is everybody at work 7 days a week from whenever to whenever. We're gonna again go with the maximum amount of hours. Say you're one of the unlucky bastards who has to work 100 hours a week. So, with that said, you're working every day. It's a 100-hour work week. What is 100 divided by 7? Well, that's 14.285714285, etc., etc., etc. So, basically 14 and a half hours per day of work. 14 and a half hours of straight work every single day. So there's 24 hours in a day. Of course, that leaves you with 9.72 hours of free time per day. Now, because the human body requires pretty much 8 hours of sleep, let's just add that to the market. So, you get your 8 hours of sleep. That leaves you with 1.72 hours, or roughly almost 2 hours of free time to be a family man for your wife, your children, play with the dog, play a game at home, do a hobby, whatever it is you do or used to do in your free time. You have 2 hours to divide between all of that shit. If you are a family man. And if you're single, like I am, then you have 2 hours to basically get ready to go to work again. Those 2 hours will effectively be used to have some breakfast, or lunch, or whatever time have you, brush your teeth, get hygienic, and then go back to work for another 14 and a half hours, only to get home, pass the fuck out again, or waste those 2 hours you know, having dinner or something else, then going to sleep, only to wake up again and repeat the process day in and day out. That is not enough fucking time at all. You need to be almost a literal fucking robot to this. So, you know, let's further break down the math. 1.72 hours times 7. 12.4 hours of free time. Half a day. Half a fucking day out of an entire week that you have to your family or yourself to deal with things outside of work. This is not healthy. This is not sane. This shouldn't even be legal. But here it is. This is absurd. To be in such a perpetual state of working because your company developed a hyper-popular online video game, and the demands to keep it in tip-top shape, while admirable, is way too insane. This is just... the math speaks for itself. Could any of you, if you were in these developers' shoes, could any of you half a day of free time to yourself, even if you decide to cut your sleeping schedule by a few hours, that's still just roughly over half a day, maybe almost a full day of resting and non-work time out of 7 days, out of a week, and you're doing this 365 days a year? I mean, what about holidays? Do they work holidays? It doesn't mention it in the article, that at least I can tell. But I would assume that they probably have them work holidays. It's fucking absurd. It's disgusting. This is a prime example of why I would assume some indie developers or some people who want to make video games don't want to get into the industry. Or at least the AAA industry. They want to stay indie or something else because they see this shit right here. They see EA doing what they're doing to BioWare, Bullfrog, Visceral, Maxis, all the dead companies in EA's little backyard shed of a graveyard. And what they're doing to Anthem and BioWare right now, it's no fucking way. And then there's Epic Games right here. They say oh fuck, I just realized this. The fucking hypocrisy of Epic Games. Their store, their 88% cut is to help the devs, so they say. But here they are, treating their own devs. The hypocrisy is right there. What do you gotta say about that, Epic Games? You're for the developers with your 88% profit cut to jump onto your store. You even shell millions of dollars to poach these developers to jump onto your store and then fuck everyone else out of the competition under the guise of being some kind of fucking pariah or, you know, trying to improve the industry, when the absolute fucking truth is that you're just as bad, if not worse, as what makes the industry suck so much. It's like corporate slavery or something. That's probably a good analogy for corporate fucking slavery. It's fucking hypocritical. So, the next time someone wants to pull the excuse that, oh, Epic Games Store their 88% cut is going to help the industry, it's going to help developers get the money they're owed, what they deserve. Yeah, tell that to their own fucking employees working on Fortnite. Tell that to their own developers getting sick, their family lives ruined, their personal lives non-existent, if not ruined. You're telling me they're for the devs, but they don't treat their own kind the same way they're treating all these other devs with fucking golden gloves and spoons? Like, you're full of shit. You are in goddamn fucking denial if you think that Epic Games has any moral good intentions for this industry. They are the worst kind of fucking scum in this industry. Because they want to pretend they're so good. They're gonna change the industry with their store, with how they do things, and it speaks fucking measures when they don't treat their own in the way they say they're wanting to treat the industry. So fuck you, Epic Games. Fuck you. Jesus Christ, I'm getting worked up here. I have zero fucking tolerance for snakes and liars. It's ridiculous. Oh, Epic, I guess Epic did get word of this to an extent, as, they sent out a spokesperson for comment. So, an Epic spokesperson told Polygon the unexpected success of Fortnite, quote, had created difficulties, and that employees are working very hard on Fortnite and other Epic efforts. What other Epic efforts? Poaching more developers? Trying to make your store just as anti-consumer friendly than it already is? I mean, all you got is fucking Fortnite. You don't even work on... I don't even think you work on the original Fortnite, which I think is a better game, all things considered. But, whatever. But, quote, extreme situations such as the 100-hour work weeks are incredibly rare, and in those instances we seek to immediately remedy them to avoid recurrence. Yeah, tell me another lie, you fucking assholes. Epic, of course, isn't the only games company facing accusations of crunch culture. Can we not add culture to that? Because that's so fucking stupid. Let's just call it what it is. Employee abuse. It's a problem across the industry. No shit article. Earlier this month, Kotaku reported on the employee stories of crunch culture and muddled management at BioWare in exposés on the development of Anthem and Dragon Age 4, which, you know, to Kotaku and Jason Schreier's credit, probably one of his finest works. If only they were more consistent on that level. Quote, I've had friends come to me and say, I can't take this anymore, one Epic employee tells Polygon. I have friends break down in tears. The crunch is constant. And that's the end of that article. But, yeah. So, Epic Games, who thinks they're trying to make the industry better for developers, is treating their own developers like shit. Employees and probably ex-employees, being anonymous because of non-disclosure agreements set by Epic Games, have said that people are working 70 to 100-hour work weeks over, quote, voluntary overtime, which is not really voluntary at all. And if anyone takes a vacation or takes a weekend off, like normal people do, and a deadline is not met during that time, that person gets the axe. People are having mental breakdowns. People are having their family lives ruined. People are having their normal lives ruined. People have less than half a fucking day of free time to eat, sleep, and live something that resembles a life. This is unacceptable. This is our game industry. This is why we need to reset the industry. And until that happens, this will continue. People will continue to get sick from pure stress. People will continue to have their lives destroyed because now they've been overworked to the brink. This is not acceptable, and it is a fucking reason why this industry needs to get reset. It needs to be purged of its greedy and corrupt parts. The people who don't give a fuck about video games, the people who don't give a fuck about developers, the people who don't give a fuck about the community, gamers, the culture, everything that made gaming awesome to begin with. The reason it even became successful. All of that is next to gone now because of these motherfuckers in the hot seat running the show. And it needs to fucking go away, or gaming is going to die. And it will die. That's a guarantee unless shit changes for the better. And the only way it's gonna get better is when the majority of people who will likely be listening to this or any other video that's on this topic or any topic in regards to the video game industry being a piece of shit needs to start fucking caring if they like video games so much. Because other than that, you motherfuckers are part of the goddamn problem. Because the people who care about video games, who want it to not crash and burn, who want it to have some semblance of integrity and success again, back in the gold days, they are in the minority as far as the entire population of, quote, gamers are concerned. The majority of, quote, gamers are fucking filthy casuals, people who don't give a fuck about gaming, who just consume it non-stop like an obese, fucking hungry motherfucker at McDonald's ordering 20 Big Macs. Just replace the Big Macs with Call of Duty and any other AAA hype game. Get out or start caring, and I doubt you're going to do either. With that said, have a nice day. And try to please give a little more of a fuck about the hobby / entertainment / whatever you want to call it that you enjoy every day and clearly take for granted. Because sooner or later, there's the people who care are either going to be dead, not exist, or they're going to stop caring in a whole different other way, and they're going to laugh as you ask, how did this happen, when it all comes crumbling down. Take care of yourselves, and enjoy games while you can.